Now then, here we are in my beautiful shipping container. So I have come up with a solution to the biggest problem that we have with our gas canisters and our cook sets. So a gas canister, as you all know, is rather annoying because it's hard. Now the fact that it's hard and it sits inside your pot, it rattles around and it scratches the inside. Now this gets worsened, the fact that it's actually quite rusty along the bottom of there, if you can see that, and they always end up rusting out. You can also see I've got a big bulge in mine, and that has happened because I've overfilled it. So I always use one of these, which is a little device which screws onto your gas can like that at one side, and then you get a bigger gas can, you screw it on the other side, and then you can fill from this one into that. So I'm saving money by only buying the big ones in bulk rather than just buying these, because these are like £7 or £8 each, whereas I can actually get full ones of those for about the same sort of price. Now the cheapest and simplest way to sort this out is to cut a little bit of rag, and then you can just drop that into the bottom there, and it stops the shaking, and it also stops the rust from rubbing against the inside of the pot. But I've only used this one once, and you can see there's already rust on that, so it's just a bit mucky and horrible. I don't really like that, so I've come up with a way better solution. My favourite cook set is the GSI Outdoors Minimalist, and the reason is the fact that it has this neoprene sleeve on the outside which just slots over and insulates the mug. It also has a lid with a drinkable top, so you can drink out of it without burning your lip. Now most cook sets don't come with a lid nor that, so if we just get rid of that for the second, and then we're left with just a hard, this is an aluminium one actually, an aluminium alloy, very lightweight, but you can get titanium ones which is quite commonly used, which are more expensive, but they come with their pros and cons as well. But as I say, overall I absolutely love this one. So I'm going to blow your mind now. This is my cook set with the can sat at the top there. So if I just take this out, and I'll show you exactly what I've done, I have found this piece of magic. So as you can see, it's just a piece of silicone there, and it could not fit better in there. It just sits in the top, and as I say, holds the gas canister in place, and it stops it rattling around. So we've solved that problem of the rust and everything scratching and rattling in there. So I'll take that out. I'm going to come back to this because it's got so many uses, and it is honestly a piece of brilliance. So I'll continue delving into here. So in the bottom of this I've also got another piece of silicone which, I'll just pull this out, fits absolutely perfectly in the bottom. So again, it's a little bit different silicone this, because this is actually quite thin. This is probably about 1.5 millimeters thickness of that, whereas this I'd say is 3 mil. And this has a tiny little hole in the bottom, so when you're actually pushing it down into your pot, it allows the air to escape, so it's actually fairly easy to do that. So I'll go through what's in here firstly, just to make a little bit of space. So I have a titanium foldable spoon, I've got a lighter, and also a tiny little knife there, so I can sort of use it just for cutting packets and things like that, just to get into my food. I've got a backup lighting system, which is just a set of matches. I've got a set of these hot lips. Now these hot lips are designed to just sort of clip on the outside of a usually a titanium cup, and it just allows you to drink out of that without burning your lips. So they're actually pretty good. I just don't really like the design because they don't really sit on there that well. And I have noticed that a little bit of water, or the tea, I always drink tea, can just seep underneath. It's not bad though, it does what it needs to do, and it only weighs a few grams. And then we have my, what are these called? My doofers, I always call them my doofers. Now these are a set of pot grabs, which obviously just allow you to pick up the pot when it's really, really hot. And in there, you can just see that round section. That is a magnet, which magically magnetizes and sits to your pot. So it just stops you from losing them that easily. And then in here, I've just made a little tiny sleeve out of an old buff, and that holds one of these, which you've all got, I'm sure, but it's a tiny little titanium stove, and it only weighs 26 grams, so it's pretty awesome is that thing, and it does work well. I cannot complain at all with it. For the weight, 26 grams, and it only costs about 16 quid. You just buy them on Amazon. So that's everything that's in there. So let's go into how it all works. So obviously this is pretty awesome because it sits, protects everything in the bottom, stops stuff rolling about and scratching everything. But watch this. That, it also sits over the bottom of that. So if you are drinking a hot drink, you can actually hold the cup, you can pop your hot lips on as well, and it turns like a titanium cup into something that's drinkable that you can actually hold as well. I've tried it a couple of times, and this works well with boiling water in it, but if it's just boiling water without any milk and you've not like just cooled it down a little bit, it still can be a little bit hot to touch, but it does take the edge off and stops you from actually burning your fingers, so that's the main thing. So that's pretty damn awesome, right? Comes up well. So, coming back to this beautiful piece of magic. Now, this is a lot thinner silicone, as you can see. It just sort of scrunches up, and it fits to perfection in there. And that rim on the top just allows it to sit and suspend itself with that, just at that height. So it's doing exactly what it needs to do and stop the rattling. But get this, you could also just use it as a bit of a sleeve just to take the edge off the heat and use it like that, but it's very thin, so it doesn't work very well for that. But if you do not have a lid for your cup, watch this. So from there, all we're going to do is just roll that, and then straight away we have formed a lid, and that will just sit on top, and it just helps the efficiency of your fuel and your heat system that is actually going to boil the water. So look, I mean, get that, it makes a lid as well. So again, a brilliant bit of kit, but it even does more. So I can take my spoon and then just use this as a little eating bowl for if I had some sort of cereal or something. I mean, for that, I just think that is just brilliant. You can also use this as a place just to store your gas can, especially in winter, because when you put it on the ground outside, these get really cold and frost builds up on them, and with that, loads of debris from the ground sticks to that ice, and it can be rather annoying. So that will just obviously protect that from happening and potentially insulate it a little bit, just so it works a little bit better as well. What else could you use it for? You could maybe use it as a little hand puppet. So when you're really bored in your tent for 16 hours on a dark night in winter, you've got someone to talk to. But apart from that, I think that's pretty much everything. So the all-important dimensions and weights, just to see if you can utilise any of this in your cook system. So the internal diameter of my pot is 94mm. And it has a height of 102. So these two stacked on top of each other, if I just line those up perfectly, they measure 99mm up to the underside of that little lip. So that's why it fits perfectly. Let's turn my scales on. My pot weighs 98 grams. It's not the lightest of pots. You could get a titanium one, which might knock sort of 10 or 20 grams off, but I do love that pot. This piece of silicone weighs 53 grams, and the magic one weighs 31 grams. The folding titanium spoon, which is by Boundless Voyage, which is pretty much the only one that will actually fit perfectly inside this little bit of black silicone. This weighs 18 grams. So again, you can get ones, I've got one that's like 9 grams, but it doesn't fold. So that's why this obviously just weighs a little bit more, but it is pretty awesome, is that. The hot lips weigh 3 grams, and the lighter, being a Bic one, is the lightest you're going to get, and that is 12 grams. So pretty lightweight. If I just shove it all back together, and I'll give you a total weight of my whole cook system all in one. So pop that in there. We've got my stove and my doofers, put one inside the other. That can just sit in the bottom. My little tiny penknife just for cutting the packets. An extra way of lighting my stove in case my big lighter fails. Pop in the hot lips, and then the spoon just sits on top of all that. We'll drop that in, grab a full gas can, push that in there so it sits down to that rim, and altogether that could be your full cook set. You just maybe need an elastic band or one of the X bands to sit over the top, and that weighs 443 grams, but that is including the gas canister. But for me, I like to have this proper lid, so I'm just going to shove that on. And I also love my insulated neoprene cover, because then I can have a nice hot cup of tea and sit on a mountain enjoying the view for longer, sipping that Yorkshire tea. Altogether though, it comes in at 509 grams. Overall, I've got an absolutely awesome cook set, and I have tried and tested this for tens of years now. I absolutely love it, and it's just nice to add a couple of little bits extra to it to enhance it further. So if you're interested in maybe enhancing your cook set a little bit further, then I'll leave a link in the description to all these items, and hopefully it will also overcome that gas canister problem, which is what this is all about. So anyway, if you've liked the video, give it a big fat thumbs up as always, and there's always going to be more content coming from me. Mostly adventures, but I always show my kit on my adventures and what I'm up to, so hopefully you'll be able to benefit from many of my other videos as well. Press that button, give it a like, we'll see you on the next one. Take care.